I'm going to do a quick talk on capture the flag competitions. If you've never participated in the CTF before, hopefully this will give you the confidence to sign up and participate. My name is Roman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of CTF. We have our booth right here, so if you want to learn more about our company, what we do, feel free to stop by. But I've been participating in cybersecurity competitions since high school. I ran our first CTF back in 2015, and since then we've organized over 300 competitions. We run jeopardy-style CTFs, attack and defense-style CTFs. We ran some CCDC regionals. But today I'm going to talk about jeopardy-style CTFs. I've been coming to Always Hackin Fest since 2018. This is my favorite conference by far. And so this is your first time. I hope you come back. Let's see. So my wife helped me make the slides, but I'm also a national park enthusiast, and you can see a photo of my family from the Badlands National Park, which is just a few hours away. So what is a CTF? CTF stands for a capture the flag competition. And the reason I included this slide is because it happens way too often. Is I sometimes talk to people about, cybersecurity, about my job, about helping them get into the field. And usually the first question I ask them is, do you know what CTFs are? Or do you know what capture the flag competitions are? And most of the time they say yes. And so instead of going into the details of how these competitions work, I just, assume that they know what CTFs are. And then halfway through the conversation, I realize that the CTFs they're thinking about are these. So this is not the kind of CTF that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a cybersecurity style capture the flag competition. And there are two main types. So Jeopardy style is what we have here today. Jeopardy style is a beginner-friendly CTF competition format. You're presented with a list of challenges that cover a wide range of difficulties, a wide range of topics, and usually those challenges are more or less independent. Attack and defense is a more difficult type of CTF competition. Instead of capturing flags in individual challenges, each team is given a set of services that they're trying to defend in real time. They have to analyze the code, they have to patch the vulnerabilities in their services, and they have to exploit the same vulnerabilities in other teams' machines. So this one, attack and defense, is a really fun format, but it is not very beginner-friendly because you have to have a pretty good programming and scripting knowledge. You have to have some network forensic skills, but it is really fun once you figure out how to participate in it. There is another competition format. Depending on who you ask, you might hear HackQuest or Mixed as another type of CTF competitions. Usually just a CTF competition in disguise, like a Jeopardy-style competition in disguise, where you might have challenges that you have to be solved in a certain order or something like that. So why would you participate in the capture the flag competition? If you want to be really good, at security, you have to have a pretty good in-depth understanding of how things work. So, vulnerabilities can happen in a variety of different places, the application level, the operating system level, the network level. And one of the best ways to gain this in-depth understanding of how systems work is by trying to break the system. And CTFs are designed for that. We give you systems that are vulnerable by design, and your goal as a participant is to break into these systems, figure out how they work, learn new tools along the way, and then you will find the flag and hopefully learn something. So a few more reasons. The biggest reason why would you participate in a capture the flag competition is to learn some hands-on skills. Jeopardy-style competitions are nice in that the challenges generally cover different topics. And so if you're trying to learn more about forensics, you can focus on the forensics category. If you're trying to learn more about binary exploitation, you can focus on that category. And there's no expectation that you know how to solve these challenges before you start, because you're expected to use Google, you're expected to use any resource you can find on the internet to solve these challenges. And so as you're working on them, hopefully you're going to be doing some research on your own and learning new skills. Another big benefit of participating in these competitions is to learn how to work and communicate in teams. I've seen this a lot, but often the teams that win these competitions are not the most technical teams. Often it's the teams that have the best communication skills, teams that are not stressed out, teams that are enjoying what they're doing. And participating in these competitions in teams is a great way for you to be able to communicate, not get stressed, not get angry with each other, just understand that you're both trying to work towards the same goal, solve these challenges, share ideas, and so forth. In the same vein, it's a great way to meet people. So if you go to a conference, if you go to some kind of in-person event, it's a really good way to meet people. And I've also seen a lot of people get jobs in cybersecurity just because they participate in some competitions. So National Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition, for college students, it's a pretty well-known event. I know several people who have been able to get a job at the sponsoring companies just because they participated. And same with CTFs. By participating in these events, you're kind of selecting, identifying that you're really interested in this field. And also, you're demonstrating that you do have these practical skills that go beyond the theory as you're solving these challenges. So this is what a Jeopardy-style CTF challenge looks like. This is a screenshot from our Meta CTF platform. There are a lot of other CTF platforms out there. You might have heard of CTFD. You might have heard of Facebook CTF, a bunch of other ones. They're mostly pretty similar. But these are the main parts of the challenges that you will see. So first, there's a title. Definitely make sure to read it. It might have some kind of hint. Often, competition organizers like to include puns and hints that will help you solve the challenge. So make sure you pay attention to the title. The next two fields, the points and the number of teams that solve the challenge, are a great way for you to see the difficulty level of the challenge. If you've never done a CTF before, I recommend that you start at the top with the easiest challenges and then go down the list. If you're working in if you're participating in a very competitive CTF, where the competition might use dynamic scoring, you don't really have that privilege of knowing which challenges are easier. But in this kind of environment where we do tell you the point values, start at the top and go down the list. Also, make sure you pay attention to the description. The description is the core of the challenge. It contains some kind of context, some kind of problem statement that will tell you what it is that you're trying to do. And then there is going to be some kind of resource, some kind of artifact, maybe a link, maybe a file download that you have to look at in order to be able to actually find the flag. And make sure that you read the description, because once again, it might give you hints. It might give you some pointers in the direction that you're trying to go. In our platform, we have a hint button. There's a question mark right next to the challenge flag submission field. A lot of people don't realize that it's there, but if you click on the hint, it's going to give you a free hint that might help you solve the challenge. Some hints do take points away, but it's never going to take points away before prompting you for it. So don't worry about clicking the hint. It might give you a nudge in the right direction. Finally, once you find the answer to the challenge, it's going to be some kind of string that you'll be able to enter into that field. And once you have that string, you can click the submit button, and hopefully, it's going to be rated as correct, and you're going to get the points. And the team that gets solves the most number of challenges, gets the most points, is going to end up winning. If there's a tie, the team that got to that point value first is going to be ranked higher. So what are flags? Flags are strings of text that you can find by completing a variety of different tasks that you can then exchange for points. So in our competitions, most of our flags are going to look like the first line, meta CTF text with underscores. In some competitions, it might just be a random MD5 hash. There might be a different tag in the beginning. Our platform is pretty lenient with how it grades the flags. So for example, you can ignore the first part of the challenge. You can ignore the first part of the flag. Don't put the meta CTF bracket. It's still going to mark it as correct. We don't care about capitalization. Some CTF platforms really do care that your flag is in the exact specific format. So that's why it's kind of a thing. But the other big reason we have the format is so that once you find the flag, you know that you're done. In our competitions, we try to make sure there are no red herrings. So once you find the answer, it should work. And if it's not working, it's usually a problem on our end or you don't have the answer. So these are some of the most common challenge categories that you will see in capture the flag competitions. The first one is called web exploitation. So this is personally my favorite category. And it pretty much covers everything related to web security. So an easy challenge might require you to simply take a look at the source code of the challenge, see that there is a password hard-coded in a comment, maybe there is a password hard-coded in a JavaScript authenticate function. A more difficult challenge might require you to SQL injection, cross-site scripting, server-side request forgery, any of the common web vulnerabilities. Forensics is a pretty broad category, but it usually falls into three main categories. So there's file forensics, where you're trying to, reverse engineer some kind of file, figure out what it is, try to open it, try to analyze it, using tools like binwalk, for example, file, just to, figure out the magic bytes. You might have to fix a header, in the file. Another type of forensics challenges is memory forensics. So using tools like volatility, WinDebug, some other tools to analyze a dump of a computer memory. And finally, network forensics is a really common category as well. That's where you use tools like Wireshark, T-Shark to parse some kind of PCAP file, network dump file, to find traces of what happened in a network. For example, an easy challenge in forensics might require you to look at an image. Images, for example, JPEGs, often contain a section of data called metadata in the EXIF format. And you can use tools like EXIF tool, CyberChef has a tool for that as well. But often when you take a photo, it stores the location of where the photo was taken. And for example, a forensics challenge might require you to find the location of where a photo was taken based on the metadata in that file. A more difficult challenge might require you to download the memory dump, find a process, reverse engineer that process, see which endpoint it was connecting to, and so forth. Reconnaissance and OSINT is another category. It also falls into two main types. There is a kind of a less technical type, where you're trying to find information on Google using open source tools about some kind of target. The target might be a fake individual, it might be a fake company, it might be some kind of trivia question. But the goal is to use Google, publicly available tools, publicly available databases to find information about something. And then the more technical side of reconnaissance is using tools like Nmap, using tools like port scanning, deer busting. Deer busting probably falls into web exploitation, but using things like Nmap to figure out information about a technical target. So it might be some kind of server, might be some kind of IP address, might be some kind of domain name, and those are the two main types. Reconnaissance and OSINT are generally the easiest category in CTFs, and so often that's usually the favorite category from the majority of people. Cryptography is the next category, and it covers anything that has to deal with encryption, encoding, custom ciphers. Generally, you have very easy cryptography challenges, and you have very difficult cryptography challenges. Easy cryptography challenges might ask you to decode something from base 64. The difference between encoding and encryption, encoding, you're just changing the format of what data looks like. And so, for example, decoding and encoding it from binary, hexadecimal, base 64, those are usually kind of easy cryptography challenges. You might have some hash cracking, that you have to identify the hash type, figure out a word list, and crack the hash using a tool like John the Ripper or Hashcat. And then harder cryptography challenges usually work with well-known algorithms or poor implementations of well-known algorithms or custom encryption algorithms. And the difficulty there is that you have to have a pretty good understanding of math, of linear algebra, in order to be able to solve some of those. And so that's why you often don't see cryptography challenges in the middle. You either have the math skills to be able to solve them. We definitely try to have ones that don't require that much math, but in a lot of CTFs, when you see hard cryptography challenges, usually they require some sort of linear algebra to solve. Reverse engineering is a really broad category. Different CTF organizers will often lump binary exploitation and reverse engineering into the same category. The way we define it is as a category where you have to take something apart. So you might be looking at an Android application. You might be looking at some kind of compiled Java program, compiled C program, compiled Python program, and you have to take it apart, use some kind of disassembly tool, decompilation tool, figure out what's going on the inside, and then use that to figure out what's happening in this program to find the flag. Binary exploitation is kind of similar to reverse engineering in that it usually focuses specifically on compiled C, C++, C# binaries, where you're given some kind of compiled program, and you have to disassemble it, decompile it, figure out what's happening on the inside, and then use various buffer overflow vulnerabilities to be able to change kind of the execution of the program by overwriting chunks of memory and making it do things that it's not supposed to do. Traditionally, binary exploitation is the hardest category in CTFs, and so if you if this is your first time participating and you aren't able to solve any binary exploitation challenges, that's totally fine. It took me several years before I was able to solve my first one. And so, yeah, it's a pretty hard category. Finally, there's miscellaneous. Once again, it depends on the CTF. For us, miscellaneous usually means things like privilege escalation, some operating system type challenges, maybe network, like layer 2 networking challenges. Sometimes competition organizers would create an entirely separate category for it. For example, things like cloud security and mobile security, usually we lump those into web exploitation or reverse engineering, depending on the challenge. Yeah, but these are the main types. So the general approach for solving these challenges is, well, first of all, try to understand what you're looking at. If you're looking at a cryptography challenge, try to figure out, are you looking at some kind of encoding or encryption? If it's encryption, what kind of algorithm is being used? If you're looking at encoding, what type of encoding? Does it have ones and zeros? Does it have hexadecimal characters? Does it have equal signs at the end? And using this kind of context and information that you learn about the challenge, use Google or any other search engine to find information about the topic. Every once in a while, I meet participants who halfway through the competition come to me and say, hey, am I allowed to use this tool, or am I allowed to look at the internet on how to solve this challenge? And the answer is yes. So there is no expectation that you're going to know how to solve these challenges before you start. It's pretty much expected that you're going to use Google for every single challenge. And so don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask for help. Type things into Google. One of the good things that CTFs teach you is the ability to kind of do research on your own. And once you get good at it, a lot of the challenges that you might not know how to do or have never heard of will be doable, because you'll have the skills and the confidence to be able to find the answer on your own. Yeah, and also make sure you read the challenge description. Once again, we might have some hints, we might have some resources in the challenge description that will help you solve the challenge. So, for example, some other approach, try breaking the thing that you're looking at. So, for example, it's a web exploitation challenge, it's a binary exploitation challenge. If you're able to pass some kind of input that's going to crash the program, that usually means that you're on the right path. If it's a cryptography challenge, forensics challenge, there are tools like CyberChef that will help you maybe get more context about the file, figure out what it is, parse it, decode it. So breaking the tool and CyberChef are kind of the two main the starting points for a lot of the challenges. But the biggest thing is try to understand what you're looking at and just Google as much as you can. So there are two types of ways to approach the competition. We often say that these competitions are beginner-friendly, that you don't need to have any experience to participate, and that if this is your first CTF, it's a great one to participate in. And that is often true, partially because we make sure the challenges cover a wide range of difficulties. So if you've never done a CTF before, there are definitely going to be some challenges that you are going to be able to solve. And that's kind of what I describe as the learn-on-the-go approach. This means that you can just come, participate. You don't need to have any tools prepared. You don't need to have any virtual machines prepared. You just look at the challenges and try to solve them. Use Google, install tools as you go, and try to get as far as you can. If you're doing this competitively, there are some competitions that have big prize spots. They give a lot of money to winners. Maybe if you go to a conference, they might have a very competitive CTF. And so there are definitely ways that you can prepare if you want to do well in those. So you have, it's often nice to have some kind of environment that you're going to be able to solve these challenges from. Often you hear Kali kind of as the default virtual machine that you should have on hand. And it's usually true because it has a lot of tools pre-installed that you might encounter in the CTF. If you want to win, often challenges require some knowledge of scripting, some knowledge of programming, some expectation of source code analysis. And so starting with Python is this weird language to begin with, but having a good understanding of how a lot of different programming languages work is going to be really helpful if you want to do well in CTFs. And finally, just having a good foundational knowledge of networking, Linux, Windows, web security will get you far. But once again, there is no requirement to prepare. One of the ways you prepare for these things is by participating in CTFs so that you can figure out what tools you like, you learn these foundational skills, and you figure out how these competitions work. So the biggest tip to prepare is practice. If you go on a website called ctftime.org, you will see that at any point in time, there are like 5 or 10 different CTF competitions happening. Some of them are better than others, so you can try signing up, try solving a few challenges. But if you want practice, there are a lot of CTFs happening. You can go to conferences. You can join interest groups. A lot of cities have like B-sides communities. They have other kind of hacker communities that often put CTF teams together and participate in these competitions. But also, once again, going to CTF Time is a place where you can find a lot of them. We at CTF run a free monthly 2-hour competition. It's, I think it happens every Thursday. We have 5 challenges, and we publish the solutions immediately after. If you want to sign up for it, you can go to, we have a link at our booth. But also, once you participate in these competitions and you try to solve the challenges, make sure you try and find and read write-ups. Often people publish videos and walkthroughs on how they solve these challenges. Not all competitions allow that. So for example, for Wildest Hacking Fest, we're going to ask that you don't publish the solutions. But for example, for the Flash CTF, we do publish all the solutions. If you do want to know the answers to these challenges at Wildest Hacking Fest, just come talk to us and we're going to walk you through or email you the solution without publishing it on the internet. But also writing your own blog posts and writing and putting on paper your approach to solving these challenges is very helpful as well, because being able to articulate your thoughts, kind of think through the process that you went through to solve this challenge is very helpful, and putting it down on paper is just kind of a way to facilitate that. And finally, finding a team. It's a great place to find people who have other skill sets that you might not have, and you can learn from them. So the competition today is going to go until 6 p.m. We're going to pause the environment until 9 a.m. tomorrow. You're going to go to this link at the very top. We also have the link posted there. We're going to have it on this screen. You can participate in teams of up to 4. But mctf.io/WWHF24 is the sign-up link for the CTF. There's no expectation that you are going to participate for the entire conference. You can check it out, solve a few challenges, see how far you can go, and then it's up to you if you want to keep going further. We are going to keep the challenges open after the conference ends for another week or 2. So in case you want to take another look at the challenges with the solutions in mind after we send them to you, you'll have that opportunity. If you do need a virtual machine, you might already have a Kali virtual machine installed on your laptop, and that's great. You can try to install one, but then usually it requires like a gigabyte or 5 gigabyte download, which you probably won't be able to do on this network. And so you're welcome to use that web-based VM listed right there. It's going to have a Kali and a Windows machine that you can use to install tools, to do whatever you want, and to help you solve the challenges. This is the link to the practice environment. So we run Flash CTFs every month. We take all the challenges from those Flash CTFs, put them in the practice environment, and we have all the solutions listed there. So if you're trying to figure out how to start these challenges, take a look at some of those challenges in the practice environment and read the solution. You kind of go back and try to read it just to get an idea of how to solve these challenges. And finally, there's my LinkedIn, there's my email. If you want to talk about CTF competitions, any other type of cybersecurity competition, if you want, if you're at a university and you're trying to start a cybersecurity team, would love to talk.